Talk about power walks today. We post this all the time on our Instagram story, people doing power walks. This is something that everybody in the gym does, just like the reverse hypers, everybody does reverse hypers. Pretty much everybody's gonna do power walks as long as they're, typically they have to be big enough and strong enough, but as soon as they're about 12 and up, everybody's doing power walks. It's gonna be different than a regular just plain sled drag when as you're on the balls of your feet, whether you're going backwards or forwards. When you're on the balls of your feet, you're pushing back or you're dragging this way. It's all quad dominant stuff. When we do power walks, it's posterior dominant. So we're going to reach out and strike the ground with our heel and pull our hips through as opposed to pushing our hips through. So there's a big difference there. You're going to use your hamstrings more instead of your quads so much. Now, most of our athletes, again, we've talked about this before, most athletes and most people in general are going to be very quad dominant, and it's important to have strong quads, but they're too strong for their hamstrings. We really need, in order to improve performance, we have to bring up the hamstring strength. So in our prep for training on the board, our prep before we actually get into our training, every session, we do some prep work, and one of the lower body days is always power walks. Now, I'm going to demonstrate this inside, but we typically do this outside, irregardless of weather. Unless there's snow on the ground, we go outside, even if it's cold or hot. We're outside doing this, and we go 60 yards at a clip. Now, we might start someone with 4 to 6 60s, and we gradually build them up. Typically, we want to do between 8 and 12 by 60 yards with about a minute or so rest in between, depending on how fast we're going and how much resistance we have. I'm just going to demonstrate with the sled. We typically wear it around the waist, but we could also we could change it up and put this around our shoulder harness on and do this around the harness, with the harness around our shoulders. Now, as we get better at this, we can add resistance, but we could also add ankle weights. We could add a sandbag to our backs. We could add something in front. We could hold dumbbells. We could wear a weight vest. We could put chains around our neck. So the way we can make this harder is it's infinite. Again, we can go light and fast. We can go a little heavier and slower. And we can add resistance all sorts of ways to this. You could also go further. So for most of our athletes are strength and power athletes. So they're playing baseball, they're track, they're football, basketball, lacrosse. So it's sprinting dominant. I learned from people who are smarter than myself that 60 yards for the power walks works best for sprinters and for football players and people who have to sprint all the time. That just seems to be any further becomes more endurance based because I think the time gets to be too long. Any shorter, you don't really get as much out of it if it's too short. So 60 yards, we start 4 to 6, work up to 12. Once we get to 12, we wave back through. So I like to do this in 3-week waves. Maybe you do 8, then 10, then 12, and then maybe you add some weight and do 8, then 10, then 12. And then maybe you add ankle weights, and you just do 3 weeks. You do 8 reps of 60 for 3 weeks, and then we add maybe a chain. We do like that. So the way you can wave it is infinite. But typically 3-week waves, once you get up to doing about 12 consistently, I like to wave it up and down with different types of resistance or more volume in 3-week waves. What else? So again, I'm going to demonstrate this, but it's going to be a heel strike and pull through, and you'll see the difference between a regular sled drag and a power walk. I'm just going to back the camera up a little bit here so you can see this. Now every step on this should be a powerful step. That's what's nice about this. We're not using momentum. It's going to be step, pull, step, pull, step, pull. So every step we're putting power back into the ground. We're using our hamstrings and our glutes to pull our hips through. And we exaggerate the arm swing on this. So you can't do this with little arms really. We want to be big arms. If you're not holding something in your hands, we want big arms. Now, notice every step I take is a powerful step. And that's pretty much it. If I wanted to put a sandbag on my back, it keeps me a little more upright. And I would just go like this. I like this variation. And we would do it with our sandbag on our back. Now, we do this with our wrestlers as well. So it's not just for athletes that have to sprint. We'll do it with wrestlers too. I like it for the wrestlers because they're so quad dominant because they're always in that stance that their hamstrings really need a lot of work as well. So just doing a lot of drags at least once a week, power walking for them gives them conditioning. We could shorten down the rest time.